Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the physics of StarBall, where we will be talking about StarBall, how it's programmed, why it's programmed the way it is, and how it relates to the physics of a real basketball game in space, which may someday be a thing. We'll start by playing a game just to show everybody what it looks like. StarBall looks a little something like this. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into a solo queue and see who I find to play with. Hopefully somebody in the office will join me. And in the meantime, maybe I'll just play with John here. Let's try this. And we'll see how it goes. I'll be demoing just sort of how StarBall works, and then we can talk about how that relates to actual physics. I'm a member of too many tickets. That's probably because I started a solo queue and then got all wound up in this whole duo thing. Let's try this. Here we go. All right, now we're in. And once we get matched up, we'll play a demo game and see how it goes. And we'll demonstrate what happens when you try and play a game of basketball on the inside of a box in zero gravity. Just as a preview, the governing physics of StarBall are, of course, Newton's laws of motion. An object in motion tends to remain in motion. An object at rest tends to remain at rest. Objects react to forces upon them in a manner proportional to their mass, and for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And we'll cover how each of those laws affects motion and gameplay of StarBall during these sort of classroom-type sessions between the games. And then we'll cover how StarBall breaks those rules or doesn't implement them as perhaps a pure simulation, but instead tweaks it a little bit to make the game more interesting and entertaining. But first, let's play a game. So as you can see, StarBall takes place on the inside of a box in zero gravity. As soon as I push off of a wall, I keep going in the direction I pushed off until I hit another wall. When you toss the ball, it goes in a straight line, is not drawn by any sort of gravity towards, there is no down, so it's not drawn towards the ground because there is no ground. Instead, it just keeps going in a straight line and bounces off each wall it hits. When you've got the ball, you can't magnet onto the wall. Instead, you bounce off of it. And if you collide with another player and wind up moving in a random direction, you keep going in that direction until you hit a wall too. In fact, one of the more advanced techniques in StarBall is to deliberately crash into somebody to disrupt their momentum, because they won't be able to change their own course until they get to a wall and can then jump off of it. Similarly, you want to be very careful not to accidentally do the same thing to your teammate and leave them, especially not in the middle of the field, with drifting very slowly with no way to fix their situation and get moving back in the direction that they want to go. In addition to just jumping across the cage here, you can also use the WASD keys to crawl along the wall slowly. Although, like I say, that is pretty slow. And if you need to go a longer distance, jumping is always the faster method. Nice shot, Jay. So because you have no control over your direction once you jump until you hit another wall, the key skill in StarBall is to be in the right position in advance. So because you can only jump from where you happen to be at the time, if you want to be moving in a specific direction, you have to be on the far side of the cage from that direction you want to go in order to jump in the right direction before you have to do that jump. So StarBall is all about understanding the flow of the game, predicting where you're going to need to be, and making sure you are there before you need to be there in order to get moving in the direction you want to go to get the ball and throw it in the goal. So you can see that as soon as we've scored, we both make our way back to our end of the field, cage here, to reposition to get ready for the next play. Because when the play starts and the ball appears in the middle of the cage, we want to be able to jump in such a way that we aren't so far from the ball so that we don't have too far to go. But at the same time, when we go for the ball, we need to be certain we're moving in the right direction so that we can give it a reasonable amount of speed as we throw it towards the goal. Oh, that's not good. So I get myself not quite to the middle of the field, but a little on my side so that I'm as close to the place the ball will spawn as possible, and yet will be moving in the right direction when I jump for it after it does spawn. Like so. Now, the ball reappears after a slightly random period of time after a goal is scored. So if you time your jump towards the center of the cage appropriately, you can get there right as it appears and guarantee yourself the first spot to get there. But because the delay is slightly random, there's always a risk involved that you'll be past it when you attempt that trick. And it'll be behind you, and you'll be moving in the wrong direction away from the ball. And then you'll find yourself on the wrong side of the cage altogether with no way to defend your goal. In addition to linear momentum, jumping and keeping and maintaining a constant velocity until you impact the wall and stick, rotation works the same way. If I start looking to the left, I can pick my hands up and will continue to spin until I stop myself. Again, that's if I start spinning I will keep spinning until I deliberately stop myself and then reorient. Yet another aspect of the zero G. Now, of course, if I'm stuck to the wall, that is no longer the case because I've got the wall to push off of to maintain my orientation and bring myself to a stop from spinning. Nice slam dunk. One of our planned features is to have these audience members eventually be reflective of the stream audience, so that if you are a live streamer and you've got a bunch of people watching your stream, they can make their own individual audience member cheer or do the wave or do various other emotes. The game is split. Each game is split into 2 5-minute halves. If there's a tie at the end of the second half, we go into overtime, and if there's a tie at the end of overtime, we'll go into sudden death. Although, given the way this game has gone so far, it doesn't look like that'll be a problem. My co-worker Jay, who's playing on the blue team with an artificial intelligence against the two of us humans on the red team, seems to have taken that as a challenge, which is good. That's exactly how I meant it. And there's that sort of pre-jumping maneuver. Of course, since you don't see exactly where the ball is going to appear, it's also difficult not only to time it right, but to aim properly. And again, if you miss, you find yourself completely out of position and moving in the wrong direction, with no way or ability to change your direction of motion until you get all the way across the cage down to the completely far end, as far away from where you want to be, that is, guarding your own goal, as it is possible to be. Collisions with other players can also change your momentum. So while I was holding the ball and Jay jumped out of his corner, he ever so kindly gave me momentum in the direction I wanted to go, which was towards his goal. And all four of us went for the ball this time during this particular face-off, and it looks like Blue got there first. But by the time he got there, we all crashed together, and so he didn't have much momentum, and so his shot on the goal was quite slow. In StarBall, the ball weighs almost as much as a player does, so when you shoot the ball or pass it, you're not so much throwing the ball as you are pushing off of it. And Newton's third law, which we'll go over during the classroom section, says that you and the ball both react the same way. You know, the force you apply to the ball applies an equal and opposite force to you, and so you both go in opposite directions. What that means, of course, is that if you're not moving very fast through the air when you have the ball, you can't throw it all that fast in the direction that you want it to go. So sometimes throwing it towards the opposite end of the cage and bouncing it off the wall is the best way to get it in the right direction with the maximum amount of speed. If I were to have turned around and thrown it behind me, I would not have been able to give it enough speed to make it a reasonable maneuver. So you can see there, John was moving backwards with the ball, and so when he threw it, it did not have a great deal of speed. Fortunately, he was able to immediately stick to the wall, jump off again, catch it, and give it be moving in the right direction along with the ball in that direction, and give it plenty of speed for that shot, which then, of course, scored. There's another example. The ball's hardly moving at all because the artificial intelligence there threw it directly behind his direction of motion. I can demonstrate that myself. If I throw it behind me here, it's now moving very slowly. Oh, and Jay with a bounce pass to the AI teammate. Fortunately, we were here to defend it. What? Oh, come on. That's not good. Nice shot. There's a well-timed pre-jump. Fortunately, our goalie was in position. Oh, that's not good. And about 10 seconds left in the second half. We're not going to have a tie game, so we're not going to go into overtime, but that's all right. We can switch to the physics lesson at that point. Oh, another goal stops the clock at 1 second. And that's the game. All right, well, let's switch over to Classroom, and we'll start talking about a little physics. We'll go back and play another game in a few minutes. First, I'd like to talk about Newton's 3 laws of motion. First law is momentum. That is to say, an object at rest tends to remain at rest, and an object in motion tends to remain in motion. That is to say, without any force acting on an object, like the balls and players in StarBall, a moving object will simply continue to move until something happens to it. And this is true of both the balls and the players in StarBall. If you throw a ball, it will just keep bouncing off the walls forever until, of course, it either is caught by a player or goes through a goal. And until it bounces off a wall, it will continue moving in a straight line with no change whatsoever, unless you throw it with a curve, which we'll get to in later on in the hour. Newton's second law says that the force, the acceleration of an object due to a force is proportional to its mass. That is to say, heavier things, you need to push them harder in order to go the same speed. So what that means is, because the balls in StarBall are about as heavy as the players, it means a couple of things. First, it means when you catch the ball, if the ball was moving very rapidly, once you catch it, it will take you with it. You'll grab onto it, and the direction you're moving will change dramatically based on the direction the ball was moving. Secondly, it means when you throw the ball, you are also pushing off of it, so you move away from it. The heavier the ball, the less slow the ball goes, and the faster you go if you push with the same strength. Now, in StarBall, what that means is that if you want the ball to be going fast and get those little spinnies, little swirly things that indicate that the ball is going really, really fast, you basically have to already be moving in the direction you throw the ball. You have to be facing the direction you're moving and throw the ball in that direction. That will mean that you come to more or less a stop, and the ball will whoosh away from you at high speeds. Then there's Newton's third law of motion, which says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And that's the other half of this effect here, that says when you push off the wall of the cage, or when you push off the ball, when you throw it, you go one way and the ball goes the other way. That is the equal and opposite reaction. Now, it's of course proportional to the masses, and so since the ball weighs less than the players, although not a lot less, the ball is affected more by your throw than you are. It's that you don't both go in opposite directions at the same speed. The ball does go faster, but you do get pushed backwards when you push the ball forwards. And when you catch the ball, the final velocity that you and the ball together move is a combination of the velocity of the speed and direction you were moving before you caught it, and the speed and direction that the ball was moving before you caught it, in proportion to your relative masses. And the player mass is, I believe, twice the ball's mass in this game, which means the ball weighs half as much as you do, which is quite a bit for most sports. So that's Newton's three laws of motion in StarBall. We'll play another game, and then we'll talk about things like where StarBall ignores those laws, and how it deals with how it changes the laws of physics to make the game more interesting. So let's get another game going. All right, we'll get this match set up, and we'll talk about where StarBall doesn't quite simulate the physics as accurately as it could. Looks like we'll be on the blue team this time. All right, so the first place that StarBall tends to cheat at physics a little bit is with the ball's speed. So you'll notice if I wait for myself to bounce off the wall here and throw it in generally the direction I'm moving, that right after I throw the ball, it's got those little swirlies, which indicate that it's moving very rapidly. And that same is true of right after anybody throws it. And then as soon as it bounces off the wall, it loses those swirlies. That's because we do allow the ball to cheat a little bit and move without any air friction at all right after it's thrown. And then we begin applying the air friction again once it bounces off the wall. That's so that if you do get that beautiful, perfect, lined up momentum shot where you catch the ball and you were moving in the same direction as it, and then you throw it forwards for maximum possible speed, we want that to mean something. And so we allow the speed, we allow that to be a really fast and therefore powerful shot. Then once it bounces off the wall, we start reapplying normal air resistance, slow it down to a more manageable speed so that you can actually catch it if you're jumping after it, and which enables more sort of tactical play, trying to get the ball from here to there, up and down the cage. Yoink. The second thing that the second way the ball cheats in physics is that there's also a minimum speed that below which the ball has no or almost no air resistance at all. So it will, if you throw it at high speed, it will bounce, it will slow down, and then it will stop slowing down. And that's so that the ball doesn't ever just sort of come to a stop in the middle of the cage, which would be extremely boring to both play with and against and watch. We really want to have the ball continuously moving and bouncing forever. So there's always some motion going on, some dynamicism to the play. The next cheat is in rotational motion. Now, with the ball as heavy as it is, in addition to knocking you out of the way when you catch it, or at least knocking you off course when you catch it, it should also spin you around unless you catch it directly head on. We have found that we've needed to dampen that effect a great deal to prevent it from being simply unplayable and being extremely annoying to constantly be hurled into a spin every time you catch the ball if it was moving any direction other than directly at you. The reverse effect, though, we've left in. So if you spin yourself while you're holding the ball and throw it, you can give it some extra speed, and this, at the cost of having less control over exactly what direction you're throwing it in. Let's see if I can demonstrate that as soon as I bounce off this wall and off of this corner here. So if I spin up and hurl it. Yeah, it's going at quite a clip. And then, of course, it bounces off the wall and immediately starts slowing down, as I mentioned before. But I just did that to demonstrate it and really have no idea where I was going to throw that ball. And that's the half. The final aspect of the physics of StarBall to discuss today is throwing the ball in a curve, or that is to say, putting some English on it, which you do in this game with the second controller button or right click of the mouse. Can throw it with a little curve. Or a lot of curve if you move the mouse a long way while holding the right mouse button down. Oh, some nice teamwork with the AI there, Jay. There's a self pass off the wall there. And there's a curveball. You can see the ball spins, which affects the air resistance on one side, causing it to curve through the air. Ah, dear. And here I am, floating with almost no speed and nothing to do but wait for myself to get to the wall. There we go. No, not quite. Now, since all the players jump at the same speed, if two people jump at the ball at the same time, whichever one is closest to it will always catch it first, or always get there first. And assuming they're both on target, that person will catch it. And since in StarBall there is no stealing the ball from other players, that player will also have the ball and be able to put it wherever they want. or wherever they can at least. So it's all about making sure you are in the position you need to be in before you need to get there. So that when you jump, not only are you near where you need to jump at, but also on the right side of where you need to jump at so that you're moving in the right direction when you get there. Now you can see that Jay's AI companion is not very good at the game. We deliberately made the AI, in the multiplayer at least, chosen a rather low-level AI. There is, however, a single-player campaign with a full range of AI skill levels from absolute garbage to quite good, actually. You can play in the AI League, which has a whole regular season and then a postseason capped with a championship. And that's the game. Given what time it is, let's just jump straight into another one. I'll invite you, John. Earlier today, Jay was talking about how he'd have to go easy on the two of us. We'll see if he's been doing that this time. Go all out, Jay. See if you can beat us. It's a good start. Oh. The little number next to the main game clock is, of course, the shot clock. You have 10 seconds of possession before the game will force you to throw the ball. It should be enough to do most maneuvers, just not enough to hang on to it if you're trapped in the corner forever. It is, for example, plenty of time to get all the way from one end of the cage to the other. So you can see if I throw it behind me like this, it doesn't go very fast. But if I throw it in the direction I'm moving, I can get quite a bit of speed. Oh, just missed. We're still working out more advanced team tactics, but what seems to work pretty well at this point is for the two players on each team to sort of alternate back and forth between offense and defense, so that one of them is always back at their end of the cage, moving towards the opponent goal, and the other one is taking shots and making plays. Sometimes it makes sense for both teammates to go on the offensive together, but usually it seems to work better to have one on defense and one on offense. Oh, right at the buzzer. Make note of a bug I've noticed so that we can get that fixed before the game releases next summer. Alrighty. Oh, brutal. I'm gonna get bullied in the corner like that. I probably could have done some bullying myself there with some effectiveness, but I don't think I'm going to catch this one. Oh, so close. Timing is good, but your aim is off there, Jay. And it leaves you way out of position. And that's the game. Well, since our stream is almost over here, I think I'll just walk through a few of the single player features and maybe start up a scrimmage with one of the better AI teams just to show that off a little bit. And then we'll call it an evening or an afternoon. Thank you all for joining us, and hope you enjoyed it. This is the list of AI teams with the extremely poor charioteers, the sort of middling ground control, and the Flying Dutchman, which is the best AI that we can make so far. So we'll go ahead and give them a shot. Well, all right, so this bug is still there. There is a bug with the sounds and graphics after playing a multiplayer game if you play a single player game. So I can restart the game and get that to fix itself, which I will do immediately. I'll just jump right back into it. It's entirely possible that the Flying Dutchman AI is better than I am at this game. Oh. And that's halftime, and that's the end of our allotted time for the stream. So thanks everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please add StarBall to your wish list so you can be notified when the full game comes out this summer.